Combat, it's killing. That's what it is. And it's done in an environment that is often as difficult as you can possibly imagine. Extremes of climate, it's uncivilized, and women can't do it. The requirements for strength and endurance render them unable to do it. Doesn't work.
I knew the moment I stepped in over there at Bragg, I was like, we are being watched and something bigger is shaking out, I guarantee it.
You're looking at each other. Is she as tough as I am?
It was a bunch of female alphas.
You're doing this for every other woman that's gonna come after you. Any argument that a man's gonna have about why women shouldn't be allowed to be here, don't contribute one iota.
I thought, war? What are you doing here?
It was a man's club. Like, that is the lion's den that we just walked into.
For 8 years of a war, we didn't see the other half of a target book.
You bring a white man in a very intimidating US uniform. A lot of women will feel uncomfortable.
We're gonna go into that darkness and just be like, you need this done? Okay, let's go.
This is not what I was expecting at all.
Nobody cares if you're a man or a woman. You are defined by your actions purely.
Having this one woman on target freed up probably 4 guys.
I would have liked to have seen that play out a little bit.
I start to wonder if you're there too long, if whatever gains you made start to erode themselves, and soon you leave in the same place you started. What does winning look like?
War's not stopping. How long has America been around? How many wars we been in? Conflicts? Only thing changes is the date.
All right. Welcome back.
Misfit Nation. Misfit Nation. The Misfit Nation Show.
We are a show founded by a veteran and hosted by 2 veterans and a military spouse. Our mission is to get people to tell their stories to the world. If you're an author, share your tips with the Misfit Nation. If you're a musician or an actor, our audience needs to know how they too can get into the business. Coaches, we love our coaches. Come on and share your tips with the Misfit Nation to help them become better versions of themselves. If you are a corporate leader or an entrepreneur, come on and show how you did it and how hard you have fought for success. If you are a veteran, first responder, or Gold Star family, we would love to have you come on and share your story with the Misfit Nation. We always have time for you. If you're feeling down, alone, or starting to see the darkness, stop. Think about those who are around you. You are not alone. You will be missed. If you feel like your problems will be a burden to those in your inner circle or feel embarrassed, dial 988. If you are a veteran, take option 1. We need you to keep pushing forward. Don't make a permanent solution to a temporary problem. If you are a new listener, welcome to the Misfit Nation Show. Be sure to subscribe to our show on your favorite podcast app. Also on our YouTube channel at @the_Misfit Nation. Subscribe and click the bell to keep you up to date on our latest episodes and all of our news. You can also find us on Heroes Media Group and About Face Radio. Now, let's get to the show!
All right. Welcome back to the Misfit Nation Thursday after dinner show. It's great to have you here. We should have no conflicts with us tonight. Unless you're an NBA fan, there's probably at least one game on. We have a new Pope, so you don't have to watch the election on that. If you bet on the Pope and you bet the top 2 picks, you probably lost. I put my money on the Filipino candidate and lost, of course, since we have an American Pope now for the first time. But besides the point, we have a great guest tonight. He's a former Marine with an unbreakable mindset who has battled through life's toughest challenges, including a near-fatal accident that earned him the nickname a real-life Wolverine. His lifelong commitment to strength training didn't just rebuild his body, it fortified his mind and spirit. That strength allowed him to show grace to the intoxicated young man who hit him, offering a second chance instead of vengeance. As a coach, speaker, and mentor, he helps men develop the resilience, discipline, and leadership needed to forge their own legacies. His mission is simple: build stronger men, stronger families, and a stronger future. So without further ado, let's welcome Brandon Mancine to the Misfit Nation show. Welcome, Brandon.
Hey, thank you so much for having me, Rich. How are you?
Good, brother. It's great to have you here. It's great to have the real life Wolverine on the show. And it's not often we have a Wolverine come on our show. And actually, this is
First time for everything.
Exactly. This is the
There we
first
go.
time. I gave a brief introduction on you, Brandon, there. If you don't mind, tell us a little bit more about you from as far back as you want to go, when you started in the Marines and what you've done since.
Yeah, sure. The summary of who I am a believer, man, husband, father, coach, looking to grow in each of those roles as best I can. Went in the Marines out of high school 4 days after graduating high school, as a matter of fact. And I always joke it's the best mistake I ever made. That, growing up, I had a lot of people saying, oh, high school's the best years of your life, don't get out of it too quick. And I just remember thinking, like, this can't be. Like, you're telling me it's all downhill from here. And they were like, well, don't go off so quick. Enjoy your summer. Why you want to leave right after graduation? And that summer I was away at boot camp. I had a lot of friends fall into one or two categories. They were either dying or they were going to jail. So I likely would have been in one of those two categories. So again, the best mistake I ever made. It probably saved my life. And to high school being the best years of your life, I'm 47, turning 48 in 2 months. And I just now think that every era I've lived through has been the best years of my life. And I look to continue that streak going forward.
I think that's an awesome way to look at it. And if we live for today instead of worrying about what the past was, and just keep living today to the fullest, everything you do will be the best thing you do moving forward. I think it's
man.
Great mindset.
You nailed it. Yeah, 100%.
So you started coaching, of course, and of course you had a very bad accident.
Yeah. So I was in the Marines from 96 to 2000. Went into the infantry, became a machine gunner. Had the opportunity to try out for Fast Company. For those not familiar, Special Operations Group out of Norfolk, Virginia. Served with them, and it took everything I had to keep up with the guys in that unit. And so I always stated as I spent the late 90s walking the earth with some of the baddest men on the planet, and I'm still in touch with a lot of them. Went to Kilo 32 after that. Went to the Middle East with Fast, and then went to Japan with Kilo 32. Met some great guys there. Got out in June of 2000, and those 96 2000, that time in the Marines and the guys I served with, it absolutely was a critical time in my life that helped really form the man I am today. But as I'm sure a lot of your listeners are familiar with, it beat the hell out of my body. So I grew up in Pittsburgh, didn't want to go back there. Some of the guys I served with didn't want to go back to their hometowns either. So we all kind of landed in Norfolk, and joined a YMCA there for my gym, and a couple of us joined there, and there was a trainer there named Alex. Did I lose you?
I got you.
All right. There was a trainer there named Alex who came from a Marine Corps family. He wasn't a Marine himself. So he heard a bunch of Marines join, and he offered to take us through our initiation phase, like the first couple of appointments. And he said, it was because he loved Marines. And I'm sure there was that aspect of it, because he would always tell about his brother who was currently serving at that time and his dad who is retired. But I'm sure there was an aspect that was like, I need to make sure these guys aren't going to tear the gym up, because sometimes Marines have that reputation, right?
What?
Yeah, I know. Dude, no, don't say it ain't so. But in going through there, I remember him asking me questions about like injuries and stuff like that. He was asking if I was planning to run a 5K, and I couldn't squat. I couldn't run more than 50 yards without my knees just being in excruciating pain. And then he asked me a question that I just never considered. He's like, "Do you want to be able to run again?" I said, "Sure," but the doc when I checked out was like, "You're going to make it to 30 or 35 before you're going to have knee replacement." So Alex was the first guy that kind of taught me exercise and nutrition properly applied are regenerative therapies to strengthen your body, literally to to spur healing on and to increase your capabilities, right? Not just the the Rocky montage of beating the shit out of your body. So I we figured out a plan where I could work with him, and 3 months later, not pain free, mind you, but I could run 3 miles. So yeah, man. So that kind of I was in after that. He helped me get back into shape where, after we get out, it's we all take that time or most of us do. Maybe y'all didn't, but take that time where we get out of shape, but he helped me get back into it. So then went and got certified, got a personal training certification, started working at different places. And then really early in my career, I was very fortunate to have some mentors that taught me like just because this is when CrossFit was again, the early 2000s. CrossFit was first becoming a thing. Everybody was standing on top of Bosu balls and, stability training and functional training is what they were calling everything. So these guys were like old school in strength conditioning, and they were like, look, if you have clients that want to do that, right, that's their goal. It's important to them. So help them do that in a safe and effective manner, but make sure that you are making them better athletes for their sport. And for most people, especially parents, busy professionals, it's the sport of life. Mm-hmm. So I came up with my 3-tier goal system there. First, which most people already have, is the aesthetic goal. So I think the things people say, like, I want this person's arms, this person's abs, this person's legs. And that's good to have. I will tell you that goal ultimately becomes a side effect when you nail the second 2 goals. The second one I call the lifetime of the legacy goal, which you can summarize as what type of old person do you want to be? And a lot of times when I would ask that question early in my career, I'd have, managers and people advising me on sales say, well, you can't say that. People don't want to think of themselves as old. Don't make them think of themselves as old. And my reply is, well, what's the alternative? Like, getting old is the best thing that can happen to you, because if you don't, you're not here anymore, right? So it's making sure you're in control of how you age. So for me, my lifetime or legacy goal is, right now, I'm, like I said, 47. I have a 6-year-old son, and my daughter's about to turn 4. So I was a late bloomer. I'm an old dad. When they're around 20, I'm going to be in my 60s. And at that point, I want to go on some sort of adventure trip of their choosing. Right. Hike the Appalachian Trail or the Grand Canyon, or climb Kilimanjaro, go skydiving, whatever it is that they want to do. I need to be, if I'm going to be ready to do that, then I need to be training for it now. So you have the aesthetic goal, the lifetime legacy goal, and the one that really connects those, and the one that people really helps keep people on track, they get most attached to, is what I call the empowering goal. And that is, over the next 3 to 12 months, what is something that either you can't do right now or you want to be able to do a lot better. And then we train specifically for that. So for me, I was always a fan of boxing. I started competing after I got out of the Marines, and I got back into shape. So I wanted to train for pound strength, speed, agility, just be an effective boxer. So that's what I did. And then over my career, I just always worked on pound for pound strength. I wanted to be fast. Like I said, I wanted to be agile. I wanted to be able to hit a bag. I wanted to be able to spar with guys younger than me. And then 2017 came. And that's at the end of 2016, my wife and I decided we wanted to start having kids. We didn't have the best go of it to start off, but we were keeping at it. So that year was kind of rough. And then November 19th, 2017, I was coaching at a couple of different CrossFit gyms in downtown San Antonio. The workout of the day was heavy squats, heavy singles, and then a workout called Power Elizabeth. And I worked up to 405 in my squats. I probably could have got more, but I was just shooting for 405 for that day. I believe in setting a standard, staying what's on the paper, and don't let the ego get the best of you. And then I did Power Elizabeth, and at 40 years old, I was outperforming the 20 somethings in the gym. So arguably in some of the best shape of my life. That was November 19th, 2017. November 20th, 2017, loading my dog up into the back of my Jeep. Some young man comes along high off his ass, driving his dad's truck, hit me and pinned me between the front of his truck and the back of my Jeep and pushed my Jeep forward, hitting the car in front of us. So right leg was crushed. So November 21st, 2017, my workout was taking 10 steps with a walker. Now, when the paramedics picked me up, they assessed the scene. They called my wife, and they told her, we're taking your husband to University Medical. His leg and his hip were broken, because that's what they saw. I still have the rear bumper off that Jeep, and it's got my leg print in it.
Wow.
Yeah, it's hanging up in the gym here. That, she was working in Austin that day. I hate that they called her and told her that she had to drive back knowing that, but it is what it is. But when they got to the hospital, severe crush syndrome to all the muscles in the right leg, compartment syndrome, torn MCL, 3 severe bone bruises, but no breaks. So was in the ICU for a week. One of the nurses in the ICU was an athlete at one of the CrossFit boxes that I coached at. And if you know anything about CrossFitters, they're going to tell you every opportunity they get why you should do CrossFit. And there's an old Mark Ripto quote that says, stronger people are harder to kill and more useful in general. So this nurse was telling everybody, he's like, this is why you guys need to come to CrossFit. It makes you harder to kill. This, look at my coach. His leg didn't even break. His bones are unbreakable. He's like a real life Wolverine. So that's the first time I earned that moniker. And it was great for my ego, man. My ego was doing backflips for sure. But it was an effective way, not the way I would have chosen to prove my methods work, but it was definitely an effective way to prove that they do work.
It's definitely a selling pitch. It's a great sales pitch.
Yes, sir.
Was the dog all right?
Yes. So Piggy was taking her in for chemo treatments. She has since passed. She passed a month before my son was born. She was a great dog. Yeah. So the plan was to take her. I was going to take her in for a chemo treatment, drop her off, and then I had to go do a couple of appointments. My wife was going to drive back from Austin, pick her up, and then we were going to meet at home that night. So a quick funny side note here. I knew I needed to call my wife. It was very fortunate to have a couple people run up and help me out as I'm laying there on the sidewalk. But I knew I needed to call my wife and tell her the plans have changed. I didn't want to stress her out because, like I said, she had to drive back from Austin. That's like over an hour drive, and the 35 is always under construction, so it can be a nerve-wracking drive on its own. So I knew I needed to call her, but I wanted to make sure I could stay calm. So the first thing I did was I called my buddy Dan and let him know, because I was supposed to coach a class at his gym later that day, and let him know I wasn't going to be able to make it. So he didn't answer, but I left a voicemail, and it was something like, "Hey Dan, this is Brandon. Just want to let you know I just got hit by a car, so I'm not going to be able to make it to coach class." And then I hung up, and he when he came to visit me in the hospital, he's like, I listened to the message and kind of looked at the phone like, is he kidding? Like, what the hell? So I knew I could stay calm on the phone. So then I stood up. I'm like, everybody shut up. I got to call her. So I called her and I said, hey, I told her I was in an accident. So I'm not going to be able to drop Piggy off at the vet. Piggy was our dog. I'll put her back in the condo. Just come back home. We'll figure it out. I remember she said, okay, babe, take it easy on the other guy, and hung up. And then when they loaded me into the ambulance, the paramedics were like, hey, do you want us to give you something for the pain? Now, You know, in the Marine Corps, what branch were you, Rich?
Army.
Army. All right. So maybe it's the same in the Army, but when you get injured, what do they tell you?
Motrin water.
Motrin water. We always say the joke is drink Motrin, take water, right?
Yeah.
But just early in that, I knew I didn't want to develop what's the word?
Reliance.
What's that?
Or like a reliance on it.
Well, I didn't want to develop a tolerance.
Okay.
To like I wanted, so I would always, when people would offer me painkillers, I would say no. I want it to work if I ever need it. So the paramedics load me in the ambulance and they say, "Hey, do you want us to give you something for the pain?" And just out of auto response, I said, "I don't take painkillers. I want them to work if I ever need them." And they looked at each other, kind of chuckled. And the guy goes, "Hey, man, I think this is when you need it." And I was like, "Okay, yeah, you're right." So he gave me something. And then that's when he said, remember, I had already called my wife, and he said, "Hey, we're going to call your wife and let her know. We're going to call your wife on your phone and let her know where we're taking you." And I tried to be like, "Okay, but I don't know." I kind of got woozy. And this is the part that's always hard for me to tell. I tried to skip over this earlier, but it's, you know, he called on my phone. So she saw my number come up. She was probably just starting the trip back. And she answers, probably said, "Hey, babe." And then she hears another guy's voice saying, "This is, so and so with paramedics. We're taking your husband to University Medical. His leg and his hip are broken." And I fucking hate that she had to drive back knowing that. So, but she did, because she's a trooper. And yeah, and then she got to the hospital. I was all drugged up and still convinced I was going home that night. So I remember telling her, "Let's just eat pizza and donuts for dinner tonight." And she was like, "Yeah, sure. Dinner tonight. When we get home, we'll eat pizza and donuts." But yeah, but I ended up in ICU for a week. Had physical therapy after that, and then I really dug into how to expedite my recovery as much as possible. So I read everything I could about injury recovery, specifically crush syndrome and compartment syndrome. The two big sources I dug into were Charles Poliquin and what he had done with Olympic athletes and recovery, and then Dr. Rhonda Patrick, who was covering a lot of post-injury rehab stuff at that time. And so I put together a protocol. I was doing sauna multiple times a week, ice baths multiple times a week, supplements. I was doing like 70, 80 pills a day, like 3 collagen shakes a day, and then going through physical therapy and doing like the red light therapy and all that. And there was one of the physical therapists who, the second time I earned the moniker in my rehab, he said, "You're recovering faster than anybody. You're like a real life Wolverine." So yeah, man, I was a comic book nerd when I was growing up, so I will happily lean into that title.
Heck yeah, it's one of the best comic books when I was growing up was the X-Men, the original X-Men.
Yeah.
Not sort of so much what they've done to them now, but you got to evolve too and let them do things. But I'll still stay with the originals.
Yeah, for sure.
And like I said, you're the first one to come on the show, so you are our first Wolverine.
Well, if you get another one, if you have another one, I think we got to fight for the title. So
we have to get a friend, Professor Xavier, to corral the two.
There we go.
We need an old man in a wheelchair to help you guys out and see who has the jet to get you back and forth to each other. So, I mean, that's a very amazing story right there. I have a Jeep myself, and I was just thinking about my bumper's metal. I'm not sure if you have the metal bumper or the stock.
So it was an 06. So after having kids, sold the Jeep. I have a Raptor now. It's a little more family friendly. I will get back to own it. I love old Jeeps. And, that's another thing, man. I do have to look at this and understand how lucky I was, because, I had that rear bumper up on that Jeep. I had just cleared it, right, as I was walking around the back. If I had been a foot back, that tire and the front of that truck would have crushed my rib cage. I mean, there's no way I would have survived that. So you've got to look at your blessings.
Say being a man of faith, you know that someone was looking out for you that day, and
Yeah, I wasn't at that time, but
you are now.
it's an absolute truth. Yeah.
Yeah. And you can see there's always someone that's out there with that, I guess, the magic pointer to help you get out of the way and or be in the way per se, if that's what's meant to be that day. And even while you were in the Marines, you're probably seeing the same thing, especially in special ops. You can't control where the bullets go.
Nope.
Sometimes they miss you, sometimes they hit you, and maybe it's your buddy next to you, or maybe it's you, but you don't know who's going to get hit when. It's the magic pointer that gets them. You just got to keep pushing forward.
Yes, sir.
And I think you're a testament to that right now. Coming out of that, a lot of people would have just quit after that, no matter how much in shape they were or not. That would have been the last thing they did. And
well, so that's another part of the story. You often hear it when someone's given advice on like how to get your life together. It's often they'll often throw in there, look, you have to have a fitness aspect to it. Like going back to what I said about, I was very fortunate to have these old school strength conditioning guys, right? I call it, for the everyday athlete, the everyday person, I say get strong and do stuff. Because when you look at the strength conditioning program, there's the 10 physical skills that are put together to make the person the best athlete, not just for their sport, but specific to their position. And strength is one of those 10 physical skills, but the category is called strength and conditioning because the 9 other fall under there. Are you familiar with the idea of the Pareto principle?
I am not. Explain it.
The Pareto principle says that 20% of your resources will yield you 80% of your results. Okay. So if you think about any group project you've ever been on, right? There's 20% of the people that are getting 80% of the work done. Any office you've ever worked in, 20% of the people are 80% of the productivity, right? The first time I heard this, well, I think it was the book Developing the Leader Within You, or Developing the Leaders Around You. And he said, even if you go to a picnic, 20% of the people will eat 80% of the food. It's like a universal principle, right? So strength is that the 20% that'll give you 80% of your results, right? The strength and the power. So that's why it's called strength and conditioning. So, and people think about, it's just the ability to move more weight, build bigger muscles, and that's part of it. But a proper strength and conditioning program will increase bone density, which again, I've proven increase ligament and tendon tensile strength. So make you harder to injure, make you harder to kill. That's when I look at how I'm going to help somebody get in better shape and get stronger and improve every aspect of their life, we start with building a base of strength. It's often referred to as general physical preparedness before we get them into whatever their empowering goal may be. Now, what does that teach you about the other aspects of life? Well, Rich, let me ask you this. If a younger kid like 5, 6 comes up and were to ask you, what is strength? How would you define it for them?
The ability to get up each day and keep moving.
All right, good. A lot of times when I ask that, and I did kind of prime you for the physical side of it, they'll talk about the ability to move more weight. But strength, as I've come to define it, is the ability of a position or pattern to maintain its integrity under increasing stress or load, right? So in the physical sense, that's squat, hinge, push, pull, lunge, or carry, or even rotate. How much force can be moved or force can be stabilized before that position or pattern gives. But we can take that definition and overlay it to every other aspect of your life. So the ability of a position or pattern to maintain its integrity under stress or load. Do your philosophical arguments hold up to debate? Does your political position hold up to debate? Is it strong? Your relationships, are they strong? Your emotional stability, is that strong? Every aspect of your life, does it maintain its integrity under stress? And how do you grow that strength in all those realms? By increasing just a little bit more stress and then coming back and recovering from it. Increasing a little bit more stress, coming back and recovering from it. And that's how you grow your comfort zone and become more comfortable in a multitude of different situations.
Wow, outstanding! And I think the audience is is chomping at the bit. They've sent 3 questions in so far.
Let's hear them.
We'll start with at Grunt Food. After your accident in 2017, what did the healing process teach you about discipline, faith, and forgiveness? And how did it reshape your purpose? Thanks, Grunt Food.
Teach you about discipline, faith, and forgiveness. Well, I'll tell you, my kids taught me about faith. That's who taught me about faith. I always joke that having kids is a crash course lesson in theology because, and I didn't come up with this, I forget where I heard it, but you have this thing that comes from you and you want the absolute best for it. And it's like, no, it's not going to listen to you. Right. So, yeah, man. Discipline, it reinforced the value of discipline that had already been instilled in me. Again, my grandfather, from age 11 on, I was raised in my grandparents' house. He was a Marine in World War II. He was a guy who had changed his documents at the age of 14 to join the Marine Corps. So when I was bitching about having to cut the grass at 14 years old, he was like, yeah, let me tell you what I was doing, right? Which that would shut me up real quick. Some amazing teachers I was very fortunate to have that just did not put up with any of the bullshit that teenagers would throw at them, which unfortunately I don't think a lot of teachers today are allowed to speak or act towards students the way they did towards me and my knucklehead friends. Forgiveness. So if we want to talk about the crossover between faith and forgiveness, so back in 2000, 2001, somewhere around there, before I met my wife, I was living in Norfolk. I was dating some girl who went to Old Dominion University, so we went to a Christ on Campus event, and there was the part at the end of the service where, they say, if anybody, put your head down, if anybody here wants to give their life to Christ, raise your hand. And I was fully expecting to raise my hand and do it, and for some reason I was in probably maybe 10 pounds heavier with muscle at that point, young, 23, 24, somewhere around there, in great shape. So I was the new guy in the crowd. And for some reason, the pastor, as he was doing that part, before he said, raise your hand, he just made it a point. He was an overweight guy. He said, if you're, you people who spend all their time in the gym, you're wasting your time. It's all ego. God doesn't care about that. You're wasting your time. It's not what God cares about. And I'd thought about all the things in my life that I'd been through that the pursuit of strength really helped me get through and taught me lessons to help me get through it. I was like, I knew the idea that this is my temple. So I just couldn't agree with what he was saying. So I didn't raise my hand. And if I'm being completely 100% honest, I have found that attitude in Christianity a lot. And now I take full ownership for decisions I made. So I'm not saying I was pushed out of Christianity. It made me more resistant to accepting Christ for a number of years. And I think I will summarize it with the misrepresentation of a lot of scripture, namely Matthew 5:5, which is often quoted as the meek shall inherit the earth. And when I started reading the Bible and looking into it, that's one interpretation of it. The word meek, as we understand it, doesn't fit the original text. The original text, I think, is better translated as the humble or the gentle shall inherit the earth. Now, what does gentle mean or humble mean? Well, if I have a little kitten and it's just 6 weeks old and it's been declawed or whatever, and it's like swatting at my face, that kitten's not gentle. It's trying to kill me. It just completely lacks the tools.
Right.
Right. So you can't be gentle unless you're capable of not being gentle, to put it as nicely as I can, right? So with that young man that hit me, he was high off his ass driving his dad's truck, his dad's uninsured truck. And so I remember like when I got hit and all the vehicles shifted forward, then he bounced back and I saw my leg come out of there. I remember leaning up against the Jeep, looking back, and the only way I can describe the way he looked is if you were trying to make fun of someone who was too high. Like he was literally swatting the birdies away from his head. But like I said, I was a knucklehead before the Marine Corps set me straight, right? So when you're in Texas, if you hit a person with your car while you're intoxicated, it's considered intent to kill and you're a felon.
Wow.
Like do not pass go, do not collect $200, right? Straight to jail. Now, again, for all that year prior, we'd been trying to bring kids into this world. I've been very fortunate to be able to do that since. So my first thought is, yeah, fuck that guy. Throw him in jail, bury him under the jail. I do not care. But it was like, what was it, 5 years or 8 years, something like that. So I remember thinking like, because all I could do was sit there and think. I couldn't bring my leg below my hip for more than 30 seconds before it just felt like it was going to explode. So just laying there for a week. Nothing to do but think. Well, what's the most likely scenario of him if he goes to jail and if he gets out, which he would, he's going to be a better or at least a more effective criminal.
Yep.
And he's already a wrecking ball moving through the world, this world that I want to bring kids into.
Right.
Well, I've had deferred adjudication on tickets before. So I speed, I drive fast, I do, and I get caught. And then I go to court and the judge
You're not
says,
good at it.
right. The judge says, I'm pretty good. I haven't, I still have my license. But the judge will say, take this course and, you're magically a better driver and this ticket never happened. So when I got to meet with the DA, I said, hey, can we do deferred adjudication on his felony status pending a successful 4-year enlistment, Marine Corps infantry only, honorable discharge? And I was told that's unconstitutional. And for the life of me, I don't understand how that works. Giving somebody a second chance through service to their country, unconstitutional. That makes no sense to me. So I at the sentencing, I gave him a copy of Jocko's book, Extreme Ownership. I said, let me back up real quick. I kept asking for that. I kept asking. And finally the DA said, look, it's a no-go, but you're persistent. I'll tell you what, I will run it up the chain as far as I can until I'm told to shut the hell up. And he said the first thing he had to do was he had to go to this guy's and his defense team and ask them if they were open to it. And the kid himself said no. So he would rather
go to jail,
just be a felon.
Wow.
Rather than, right. I couldn't comprehend that. So again, sentencing, I gave him a copy of Jocko Willing's book. I said, I honestly did everything I could for you. But look, here's the deal. I'd built up resilience in my life. This kid hit me with his truck, crushed my leg, and fucked up his life worse than he did mine. Yep. I don't need to seek vengeance on him. What good is that going to do me? I've got other shit to work on. I've got a family now. My wife and I have a couple of businesses. She has built an amazing hair growth brand. We're in the beauty department in HEB in Texas. My kids are growing up strong, healthy, and smart. I hope that guy turns his life around, but I've got nothing for him.
You did what you could, and you tried to push him in the right direction. And that sometimes that's all we can do. You can, like the old saying, you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make him drink.
100%.
You try to lead him to the light and get him out of that recidivism that prison will do to him, or being a felon will do to him, and he didn't choose to go that way. So that's his choice, and he made the choice to get high and drive into you. And then he made the choice again after that. So
yeah. So Grunt Food, I hope that answered your question, sir. Or ma'am, I don't know. Grunt Food sounds like it would be a dude, but
it sounds like it'd be probably either Marine or Army infantry. So.
Probably.
We got another one from Bama guy, 543 says, you often talk about breaking generational cycles. What was the pivotal moment when you decided to stop the cycle and rewrite your legacy? Thanks, Bama guy.
A great question, man. I don't know if there was a moment. I will say, there was never been a like skies opened up and it was all changed. It's been, a conversation with a friend who said this recently. It's been more just a series of nudges. Like, here, go this way, go that way. Yeah, I would say it probably started at age 11. So I just did this presentation at a men's conference in St. Louis last week. And I started it off by telling the story of two 11-year-old boys. The first one in 1940, the years after the Great Depression leading into World War II, those years that built what we call the greatest generation, right? 11-year-old boy in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, climbs up into the seat of a delivery truck. He was pulled out of school and told, go make money. Like not told, go see this person for a job, just go out there, find our jobs, bring money home. We need it. So at 11 years old, hired to drive a delivery truck 260 miles round trip from Pittsburgh to Cleveland and back. That was the first time he was paid to drive a truck, and that was my grandfather.
Wow.
1940. Now, you fast forward 48 years later, another 11-year-old boy was labeled as troublesome and committed to a ward for troubled teens. While in there, was taken through these classes of how to integrate, how to be less troublesome to society. And then there was social hours in the evenings. And that was me. Those 15 to 16-year-olds were scary as fuck when you're 11. So I didn't want to come out of my room. And so the professionals and the doctors in there decided the best treatment for an 11-year-old that doesn't want to come out of his room and socialize was solitary confinement. So I found myself often in a cinder block cell with a big steel door. And so you look at same bloodline, 48 years apart, drastically different outcomes. But the story doesn't end there. So when I came out of that ward, I went to live with my grandfather, as I stated earlier. And, he didn't take pity on me, but he gave me direction, right? Gave me objectives to shoot for, not specific instructions, but let me figure shit out. Let me make mistakes. So that was obviously like a big opportunity for me. Then I talked about amazing teachers I had who, instead of coddling and repressing, that they would more just challenge. Okay, what are you going to do now? What's your next plan? How are you going to overcome this? Again, went in the Marines, was very fortunate to be able to serve with some amazing guys in Fast Company. I started to see the difference between men and boys who had grown up. Right. And I definitely knew what I wanted. And again, so I talked about the people who said, oh, you should stay and enjoy the summer instead of shipping right off to the Marines. And I knew it was the right choice, and it was. Then the guys I was working with when I started working as a trainer, again, I would see these guys who were just doing the sexy stuff that everybody wanted to do and standing on top of Bosu balls and all that. And I saw the guys that were like, their clients were getting noticeable results. Things were happening quickly for them, and they were getting more referrals, and they were making that a career. Well, I want to go do that, right? So success leaves clues, as they say. And then, after my son was born, I think for good reason was very skeptical of therapists and doctors. But then after he was born, I recognized I had some stuff I needed to work on. So I started going to therapy. And for decades, man, back to me at 11 years old, whenever the subject about my time in that hospital would come up, I would say, well, those doctors were just doing their job. They were just doing their job. But sure, they were, but fuck them. I was worthy of protection, right? And I shouldn't have gone through that. And I figured that out when someone asked me, oh, they're doing their job. It was the therapist I was seeing asked me. They were doing their job. Okay. What about when if someone wants to put Gavin in a cell like that? I won't tell you verbatim what I said because I'll plead the fifth, right? But yeah, man, I decided I was going to do the work to improve the trajectory of my bloodline.
Outstanding.
Thank you. So Bam, I hope that answers your question, boss. Let me know if there's more.
I'll see if he pops in again. We got two more that popped in while you were answering that one. This one's a pretty cool name. At Mainline Coffee, how do you coach men
That's
to
my
balance?
people.
How do you coach men to balance being strong leaders while also being emotionally available for their families? Thanks, Mainline.
Man, that takes work. There's if you're gonna be a strong leader, you have to be emotionally available for your family. It's you're gonna make mistakes. Nobody's gonna nail it. So let's just start on the exercise side. When I start someone in a new program, if they've never worked out before, I'm going to tell them, Bama says, thanks. You're very welcome, Bama. If they've never worked out before, I'm going to tell them, all right, the win this week is getting 50% of your sets done, 50% of the work. And the same thing. They always kick off with the same thing. All right, coach, I'm going to get it all done. I'm going to get 100%. Hey, man, I hope you do. The win is 50%. You know this, Rich. When you're trying something new, life is going to test you to see how bad you want it.
Yep.
It's going to throw like a surprise thunderstorm, flat tire, whatever is going to happen. A fender bender, something like that. And so, like, without exception, that I'm going to get it done, coach. Okay, cool. I hope you do. 50% is the win. They'll come back the next week and they'll be like, oh, man, coach, I'm sorry. This happened. I wasn't able to get this done. Okay, let's take a look. Man, you got just over half done. Good job. I told you that's the win. They're like, okay, all right. This week I'm gonna get it all. Okay, cool. This week, 60% is the win, right? And we walk that up. And look, even when everything's going great in my life, 85% is the win for me because something's gonna come up. Life is what happens when you're making plans. So, we start off there. We understand we're going to make mistakes. Nothing's going to roll out perfect. We give it our best effort and we sit down and we review afterwards. What could I have done better? When you make mistakes, especially when you make them in front of your wife and kids, you own up to it. Hey, daddy was wrong. Daddy made this mistake here. And this is how I'm going to make it up to you. Because if they don't see it modeled how to make a mistake, they're going to feel nothing but shame when they do.
Right.
So you've got to model that as well. It's a great question. I hope that answers it.
I think they're pleased with it. We got one more we'll take here. This is from Kindergarten Rules. What advice do you give men who feel stuck in victimhood or bitterness from their upbringing and want to lead with grace instead of anger? Thank you, Kindergarten Rules.
Let me just say that name reminds me of O'Doyle Rules.
Yes. That's the first thing I thought of that. And it's not a Tuma.
Yeah. Yeah. What would advice do you give? Can you bring that back up for me?
Yep, there you go.
Man, you've got to let go of it.
Yeah.
It's so easy to say. I get it. I know. Kindergarten Rules might be yelling "fuck you" right now to that answer, and I get it, man. But you've got to. I would say seek some help there. That's there's because you can sit and dwell in whose fault an issue is.
Right.
But this is a rhetorical question. If it's going to get fixed, doesn't matter whose fault it is, whose responsibility is it, right? And you can't. That's the message I was trying to send to that the kid that hit me with giving him Jocko's book, Extreme Ownership. It's yeah, That's where you got to start.
Definitely, 100%. And that's the only way that you. I mean, it's easy to say it. It's easy to say you got to let go of it, shake it off, but you got to put the work into. You got to seek help and try
I'm
to
so glad you said that. I
find your.
understand it is extremely easy to say it. It is. But it's like, um, I had a guy come to me one time and he had worked with a coach before and he was like, he just kept telling me to be more resilient. So I thought I'd reach out to you. And I was like, fire that, like, don't ever, like, that's the worst advice you can be more resilient, because people have told me, like, when I shared a lot of my story at this summit last weekend, and they'll say things like, "Oh, it's such a cool story you have." It is now.
Right.
It sucked going through it, right? But that's I'm sharing it to help people understand they're not alone in this. That the broken past does not define you. Like I said, people were telling me, "Oh, the high school is the best years of your life." I feel for those people. Man, I feel for those people that view life like that. Every era I've been through has been the best years of my life. And like I said, I'm going to continue that journey. I refuse to not have that be true.
And that's the best way to live right there. And always live for today and be your best every day.
Not saying there won't be challenges. There absolutely will
day.
be. But it's dropping I had a really good friend put it this way, and I'm totally going to steal it from Ryan Michler said this. I think he stole it from somebody else too, though. Dropping the pursuit of pleasure and picking up the pleasure of pursuit.
Nice. That's a good one. That's a real good one. If you see going across the bottom of the screen there, this is something we say on the show all the time: stacking victories.
Stacking victories. There you go.
Every day, start with just like Adam McCraven said, make your bed. That's a win right there, because you're going to have setbacks every day. Every day, something's going to go wrong. Learn from it.
I have a buddy. Yeah, I have a buddy who, the thing he brags on is he doesn't make a big show of it, but every time he brushes his teeth, morning and evening, he tells himself, "Good job brushing your teeth like that." He just always talks himself up in the little things. And I remember the first time he told me, I was laughing about it. And then, like, the next time I brushed my teeth, I remember thinking, I did a good job there. And I felt good for saying it, right? So if that works, why the hell wouldn't I do it? Stack victories. I like it.
I got the back teeth today. It's good. I'm learning to get the back teeth so the doctor stop yelling at me. Good.
There we go.
All right, Brandon, we've went through a lot of stuff here in our 50 minutes. What's the best way for the Misfit Nation to get in contact with you if they want to just chat with you like we are, or maybe learn more about you?
Yeah, you can go to my website, BMF Coaching. Brandon Mancine Fitness is the name of my company. BMFcoaching.com is my website. You can find me on Instagram, BMF Coach, Coach Brandon Mancini, or A Real Life Wolverine. I've got 3 IG handles on there.
And then I know you had the 5-day challenge opt-in as well on the pod match. I'll share that as well in here.
Yeah, you go to the website. I've got my 5-day bulletproof core challenge. There's a metabolic quiz you can take on there. When is this coming out?
It's live. It'll stay on YouTube forever, and then on audio, it'll come out probably in August.
Oh, we're live. Cool. Awesome. Cool. Also, I mentioned earlier my wife's company, if you're in Texas, Hair XT, we're the all-natural drug-free alternative to products like Rogaine and minoxidil. If you're in Texas, we are in the beauty department in HEB. My wife launched that company in 2011. She has done amazing things for people. So,
is she going to expand outside of Texas or staying with that foothold with HEB?
Well, you can buy the website as well, hairxt.com. Yeah.
Awesome. That's outstanding. And before we let our guests leave, we always ask them this one question. What's 3 things the Misfit Nation can start doing tomorrow to be better humans?
Three things you can do tomorrow to start being better humans?
Yes.
Man, love yourself. Treat yourself with grace. Let me say it. Love yourself. Put grace into the world. Get strong and do stuff.
Nice. Get strong and do stuff. I think I put that in there before for you. Get strong and do stuff.
Yeah, you can also find me on that Instagram with that hashtag.
All right, awesome. That makes it easy. Good. Brandon, this has been great chatting with you, getting to know you a little more here tonight. I look forward to seeing the great things you do in the future. And Misfit Nation, thanks for hanging out with us tonight. It's been a great time. Thanks for your questions. Brandon, I know he liked the questions, and hopefully he answered all of them. And if there's more to come in, I'll send them to him an email and let him answer them, and I'll send them back to you. Brandon, you have a great night. Misfit Nation, keep being real, man. Keep doing everything you're doing out there, and love each other, and keep fighting to fight the next day.
Thanks for checking us out and being a part of the Misfit Nation Show. Don't forget to visit our website at themisfitnation.com. That's themisfitnation.com. Check out all our past episodes and get some of the great Misfit Nation gear for you and your family. As always, be humble, stay hungry, and keep hustling, because we are
Misfit Nation. Misfit Nation.